Right. Hey students, good evening and welcome to our next session. So I hope you're all preparing well every day with a lot of topics on a constant daily basis. I hope you're all preparing through as many interview questions as possible with this. Now, before we go ahead, as usual, you're able to hear me. Are you able to hear me? Are you able to see the screen? Just let me know, guys, so we can directly go ahead and begin. Perfect. Now, the next thing we're going to do today, again, our today's work is to go through, see, this is how we're going to divide our last few sessions that we have. We have today, tomorrow, and day after tomorrow. And this is how what we're going to learn within that time. So with all trees, all kind of trees that you have, what is the time complexities? We're going to learn that with trees starting with today. Then tomorrow, we'll go through sorting algorithms and learn what is the time complexity of each sorting algorithm. We'll look at each sorting algorithm, understand it completely, and then try to calculate the time complexity of it. Once it is done, we will then go through our own time complexity problems followed by this. We'll try to go through a few time complexity problems by ourselves. Once this whole part is done, then we'll get back to a few basic questions which we have not covered until now. That is the whole idea for this. Now, let's get back to here. The assignment as of yesterday that I asked you guys to try out was figure out how to reverse a linked list. Now, how many of you guys were able to do this? One question to you guys. How many were able to do this? I have got one solution. Perfect. Yes, not to worry. By 28th, you'll be easily able to finish this. Do not worry about that. So no, yes. So some of you tried, some of you got it, and Sahil has already shared the result as well. I'm going to use the same that has been shared right here. Very similar logic. So to reverse the list, here's what we need to do. I'll go through a very basic concept to understand how we can go through reversing of a list. So first thing, okay, there's no point in keeping it. Let them be. I'll just uh, create an empty page and let us take this. Now, let's say this is our linked list and the font is this. So let's say this is our linked list. You have something like 10, which is storing address of second element 2000, and from there you have 20, which is storing address of third element. From there you have 30, which is storing null. Now, in this particular case, if I want to reverse the entire linked list, we know that when we start reverse function, we will only have address of first element, that is 1000. This is all that we will have. We'll only have this much. Now, okay, no problems. So first thing we need to do is we'll only have this address, and we need to start making sure that all the values are reversed in the right order. That means 30 instead of null, it should point back to 3000. 3000 instead of pointing to the third value should point to 2000. This is exactly what we should do. So the address here is 2000 and the address here is 3000. This is the whole concept that we have as of now. Now, in our case, if I take, let's say for example, just starting from this value, if I take this and make it null, If I make this null, will I be able to go to the second value? If I make this null, will I be able to go to my second value? Of course, first point is correct. I need to make this null because this has to be my last value. I need to make this null. But if I make it null right now, will I be able to go to my second value? If I delete this and make it null, I won't be able to. So first thing I need to do here is make sure that I'm storing second address as well. So what we're going to do here is we're going to have two variables. I'll call it as one as current, another one as ahead. So current will store 1000 since it is the starting address, and ahead will store 2000 since it is the next address. Now, once I have these two values, I can now delete this and make it null. Now, once I go to second values, once I take my current to 2000, now I have to update this value with 1000. But I have lost 1000 already because I have moved to second value. So I need to keep a track of previous value as well along with this. So I'm going to need one more variable called previous, which I will initially keep it as null. So these are the three variables we need, and this is the basic code of it. Since I want to go through binary trees as well, if possible, by today, what I'm going to do is just go through this slightly faster. I'm just going to go through this slightly quicker. Now, in this case, previous value is null, current is 1000, ahead is 2000. So first thing I will do is make current arrow mark next is equal to null. So current arrow mark next, I'm making it null, or I can say current arrow mark next, I'm making it previous. After doing this, I'm gonna change my ahead value. Sorry, I'm gonna change my current value to 2000. But before changing my current value to 2000, I need the previous value. So first, I will update previous to 1000. Then I will update current to 2000. Then I will update ahead to 3000. To do this, what I'm doing here is to update previous to 1000, I'm storing current in previous. Done. So previous will become 1000. Then I'm storing ahead in current. So current will become 2000. Then I'm taking ahead as ahead arrow mark next. That means ahead now will become 3000. So these are the three steps I will do for every value that I've taken. Now again I will repeat the same step. Here current arrow mark next, whatever it is, I will store it with previous. Previous is 1000. After I store current arrow mark next with previous, I'll again do the same step. Previous, I'll make it current. Current, I'll make it ahead. And ahead, I'll make it its next value null. Now, once I do this, I know ahead is null. That means it's the last element. There's no other element. So the condition is when ahead becomes null, that's the last element. There's nothing else left. So I will take this 2000, which is in previous. Again, previous will be stored in current arrow mark next. So I'll store here as 2000. Then I will stop here and return this current address, whatever 3000 is there, as the start value. This is your basic idea of this program. So all that we are doing here is to start with previous is null, current and ahead values are we storing. Now we need to make sure that before we do this, our linked list is not empty. So we're going to go to our program here, and before we perform this, in reverse list, I'm going to send address of start, not just start. Any guesses, guys, why we are sending address of start instead of just start? So I will say that this is the complete linked list I have, and I have the start value here. Let me call this as main, and I will call this as my function reverse list. So in main, we have a variable called start, which is 1000, because 1000 is the address of starting value. 1000 is the address of starting value. We are storing it in start, and we are sending address of this start variable. Let's say start is stored in 1000 in some address. Let's say, for example, 500. So this 500 is what I'm supposed to send in reverse link as another variable called first. So we'll create another variable called first, where I will store 500 exactly. So once this is done, we'll now start with the first part. So I'm sending address of start. I'm supposed to store here as struct node star first, because we know any variable here is stored as a double pointer, because we are sending address of a single pointer. See, start itself is a pointer. It is storing starting address of the entire linked list. And I'm sending address of this pointer, so I need to store it in double pointer. We have gone through this in our last session. Now, going ahead from here, the first thing we are doing here is first value is 500. Now, I need to create three variables: previous, current, and ahead. In short, I will call it as PC and A. So previous should be null. Current should be the starting address 1000. Write it clearly, 1000. And ahead should be next of 1000. That should be 2000. Now all of this should happen if the linked list is not null. So we'll create a condition if star first is equal to null. Then we'll just print linked list is empty. That's it. You cannot reverse. Else, if it is not empty, then we'll start with else. Here we'll create previous, and then current, and then ahead. Now before initializing, I have to declare them. Now previous, current, and ahead are all pointers. They're all pointers pointing to this struct node variables. So I need to make sure they are struct node pointers. So I'll create three struct node pointers called struct node star previous, and star current, and star ahead. So we have created three struct node pointers. So once this is done, I have a question. See, what is first value? What is first value? First value is this address. I have to go to this address to get to know null, right? Observe to the question I just got. First is the address of start. Only when I go to the address of start and go to the value of it, value within it, I'll get to know what is the value of start. This is why we are using star, double star first. So I hope you're able to understand this very clearly. Perfect. So I'll just use black, I think, because it is much more sleeker to look at than red. I'll just use this from now on. Go ahead from here. Now, at this point, so far, we are able to go till else and create three variables. Now, in these three variables, previous value should be null, current should be 1000, and ahead should be 2000. So let's just store previous equals null first. Previous is equal to null. And let's just store current is equal to, I'll just write it as star first. The reason I'm writing current is equal to star first is because current is supposed to store 1000, and we have a variable called first. If you go to star first is mean value within address first. First value is 500. If you go to first, it will reach 500. Star first is value within 500, which will reach 1000. So this is the value you get. So you can use star first to get that value 1000. So we're going to use current equals star first. Now ahead equals, I can write current arrow mark next, because we know current is pointing to 1000. So when I do current arrow mark next, 1000 arrow mark next is 2000. That will be stored in ahead. So I can directly write ahead equals current arrow mark next. So we got all three values: previous, current, and ahead. Now let us start calculating. Now the first thing is I have to make sure the condition that ahead arrow mark next. Ahead arrow mark next is not null, because see, if this is my current element and this is my last element, when it is my last element, I should not do the same steps. I should exit and do a separate step, that is update start. I have to update start when it is the last element. So when we reach the last element, we should do a separate logic. So because of that, I will write a condition that while ahead arrow mark next is not equal to null. So ahead is 2000, 2000 arrow mark next is 3000. Since it is not null, we will go within the loop. If we get to know that the next value is the last value, we don't need to do that. Or instead of that, you can also do this loop in a different way, that if current arrow mark next is equal to null, or if ahead directly is equal to null. Ahead is currently 2000. Since there is another value, we can go within the while loop. If ahead was null, if this itself was the last value, what we need to do is entirely different. If this itself is the last value, our work will be different. So I'm going to give a condition like if or while ahead not equal to null. Ahead means current arrow mark next. That means we are not in the last element. So what to do when we are in the last element? We will write separately here. I'll write in comment line, write code here for what to do if in last element. Because when ahead equals null, it will exit. That is when we are in last element. When it is not null, we are not in last element. We have to keep going. So first thing I'm going to do here is I have my previous current and ahead value. First thing I will do is current arrow mark next. Current arrow mark next, whatever it should become previous. When it becomes previous, this value now becomes null. This is exactly what happens now. So let me do the same thing here. Current arrow mark next equals none. Sorry, equals previous. Perfect. So previous value, whatever it is, that is stored in current arrow mark next. After doing this, I need to increase previous, increase current, increase next. So I'm going to store current in previous, ahead in next, and ahead arrow mark next in ahead. Observe, if I store current in previous, previous becomes 1000. If I store ahead in current, current becomes 2000. If I store ahead arrow mark next, ahead is 2000, ahead arrow mark next is 3000. If I take that in ahead, I will get ahead as 3000. So we have moved all the variables. So let us do these three steps. So I'll write it as, I'll update previous with current, current with ahead, and ahead equals ahead arrow mark next. This is done. Now once this is done, I'm going to go to the same while loop again. While ahead not equal to null. Ahead is not equal to null. That means we still have one more element. This is not the last element. Since this is not the last element, we still have one more element. We'll go here and perform the same steps again. The same steps as in, again, current arrow mark next is previous. Current arrow mark next, which is 3000. I will update it with previous, which is 1000. Let's update it with 1000. After updating it 1000, next we have current will be 2000, ahead will be 3000. So I'll update the current value to previous now. So previous now becomes 2000. Then I'll update current with ahead value. So current now becomes 3000. Then I'll update ahead value with ahead arrow mark next. Now ahead arrow mark next is 3000 arrow mark next. This is where we have reached null. That means we are in the last element now. So this is where I read null. Since we're in the last element now, I'm supposed to exit the while loop and do a different logic. So we are exiting the while loop here, and this is where we do a different logic over here. So now let us start writing this logic. Now here, once we reach the last element, again I need to update this null with the previous address. The previous address is stored in the variable previous. So I'm going to do the same thing. I will update current arrow mark next with previous. That should become 2000. So I'll update current arrow mark next equals previous. Done. So the first step is the same. But after that, I don't need to update previous. I don't need to update current. I don't need to update ahead. I need to update nothing except for updating start. This is what I need to do. I need to update start. So to update start, the only way to access it is use the variable first and use star of first so I can get start. So first value is 500. Star first will give me value within this address of first, that is 500. We know that it goes down to 1000. So this is what I need to do. I need to update this value. I need to update star of first not as null. If it becomes null, it means our entire linked list is empty according to the program. I need to, since I'm reversing this, I need to make this address, this particular address, because I've reversed it. If I've reversed it, this is my starting address now. Now it is reversed like this direction. Now it is reversed in this direction. So my starting address is 3000. After reversing here, this is my starting address 3000. So I need to take 3000 over and store in star first. So star first will be stored with 3000, which is currently in current variable. So I'll just write star first equals current. That is all. So this should reverse my entire linked list. So let's do this. Star first equals current. If we do this, first let's not display, let's not perform reverse. Let us just display this. Run this. Um, if I execute this, I'm able to get 10, 20, and 30. Now, if I reverse it and then display it again, the second time I display it is supposed to become 30, 20, and 10. If I compile it now and execute it, I'm getting the second time as 30, 20, and 10. So we have successfully reversed our entire linked list. Now, go through this for a minute, guys. Let me know if you have any question whatsoever within this. If none, we'll go ahead. So I have a question now. In case you have reversed the list, now if I want to add new element, see, if you want to add it back to the original list, you have to reverse it again. If you want to add an element back to original list, you have to call reverse again. That will again reverse the entire linked list. That will give you back your original list. That will again give you 10, 20, 30. So you can reverse it twice to get back the same list. That's not a problem. So anyway, let's get back to this. Now that you have gone through this, observe this whole function. Can you figure out what will be the entire, how do I say, time complexity to solve this, time complexity to go through this? Yes, you can add an element to the reverse list. I have a question. Can we add an element to the reverse list? Yes, you can. You can insert at begin of, let's say 40 comma address of start. It's the same thing. There's no difference. You compile it, you execute it. I haven't printed it. I'll display of start. You should be able to get it. from 10, 20, 30, you're now getting 40, 30, 20, and 10. This is your whole code. So this is what you will be getting at the end. So you can add some, do whatever you want with the reverse list. It's also the same kind of list. There's no difference. So I'm gonna share this as well over here. Now, my next question is, in this case, assuming that we are running the program here, I'll go back to reverse linked list function, go through this else part, and can you guys let me know what will be the time complexity? So one of you, two of you have answered already. I want to see if any others can think of it. You may get a question like, this pseudocode will be given to you. This pseudocode will be provided to you in your question, and they will ask you to figure out what will be the entire um, time complexity to perform all of this. So if you calculate this, if you perform this, here's what you have. This statement, there's nothing, it's just declaration. You can call this as big O of 1, because worst case scenario, this is just one work. It takes one time. This is also big O of 1. This is also big O of 1. And this while loop, everything you have in this while loop, how many times will this be executed? Can you guys let me know how many times will this while loop entirely be executed? If I have 3 elements, I'll call it as big O of n. Technically, it is n minus 1, because you're doing this while ahead not equal to null. So first time when you do this, you're here. Second time when you do this, you're here. Third time when you do this, when you get to this part, it will exit and go for the next part. So technically, if you calculate it, it's going to be something like big O of n minus 1, let's say. Then you have these two as also big O of 1 and big O of 1 respectively, both of them. Now, if you calculate both of them separately as big O of 1, let's say, if you try calculating all of this, it will be something like big O of n plus 4, n plus 5 or something like that. 4 or 5 or something like that. Does this small number even matter when n is used? It does not. So we approximate it and say big O of n. So the worst case time complexity here is big O of n. What is the best case time complexity? That is also big O of n itself. It can't get done in one step. So sorry, best case time complexity, not big O, will be omega of n. And average time complexity will also be theta of n. So I have a question. These type of long programs will they ask? Here's the thing. These type of questions they have asked. And here's how they ask. They will give you this entire code as pseudocode, and one of these sentences will be wrong. One of these sentences somewhere will be wrong. And they will ask you which one of them is wrong. And they want you to correct it. Let's say instead of previous equals current, they may give you as previous equals ahead. And they'll ask you to correct them. So see, then again, I'll tell you, it's not compulsory that it's not that you can think like they will not ask such a question and never study it. And then again, they may not even ask it, but there's a good chance. There's a really good chance they may ask such questions. So you just need to know all of these. So they may, again, I'll repeat, they may, yeah, mostly worst case scenario. Yes, mostly your, I did not understand. Worst case scenario as in these questions are asked in worst case scenario, or we are supposed to calculate worst case time complexity. I did not understand what you are asking out of these two parts. What are you asking? Okay, yeah, when it is related to time complexity, they will always ask worst case time complexity, big O itself. Rarely, very rarely will they ask omega and theta. Very rarely. Most of the times they will ask big O, 99% of the time. More than 99.9 you can take the first. Now, let us go ahead When will it be big O of n cube? Nice question. I will go through these problems because when I go through sorting, we will go through them. I will explain particularly when it will be big O of n log n. I will also explain when it will be big O of 2 power n. I will explain all of these orders. All of these orders I'll explain with the examples of them in sorting in our tomorrow's session. So yes, nested loops can be n cube. Yes. So we'll go through that with some real examples further on. Now, let us go ahead. From this, I hope till now it is very clear then. Let me know, guys. Before we go ahead, till now, I hope everything we've just, okay, I have one more question. What is time complexity of whole code linked list? See, that won't be asked generally. It will be big O of 2 and 3n or generally considered as big O of n itself. If they ask real time example, see, the first interview you have is pseudocode. Here's what happens. In pseudocode round, you will barely get anything except these sort of questions. Now, one of you have asked the question like, what if they ask a question like, where are we using something like linked lists in real case? So these sort of questions are not asked in these pseudocode rounds and stuff. But yeah, there will be pseudo verbal gaming, not together, one after the other. Pseudocode round is your elimination. After that, you'll get the other rounds. So then finally, when you have your final, that is technical and HR face-to-face round, that is where you may expect some questions like, what is big data analytics? Which subject have you studied? Which was your favorite subject? What did you study within it? I think it's on the same day. I will confirm that final round about it once because last I heard it was on the same day. I'll just confirm it just in case. I'm not entirely sure. I'll confirm it by tomorrow and let you guys know. So that is where you can expect some questions. Yeah, pseudo verbal gaming, everything on same day. Yes. So this is where you can expect questions like, what is ML? What is IoT? How do you perform training and testing in machine learning? Some basic questions like on recent topics and everything are asked because Capgemini sticks to this. Until technical or HR, they will not ask anything recent trends. In technical HR combination, then they will ask recent trends. So just basically know what is ML, what is IoT. If you know something about that subject, say that that is your favorite subject, and so that you can get questions on them, stuff like that. They will ask about your projects and all of that. That comes in tech/HR together. So anyway, let's not worry about that. Let us go back to this. Yeah, to answer Pooja's question, same day. So, let's go ahead from this now to the next part. That is, we're going to go to something called double linked lists. Now, once this is done, the next thing you guys would want to learn over here is something called double linked list. Now, double linked list is where you have a variable whose previous will always be null, first value. It will store something like 10. Its next will store address of second element. And second element's previous will store address of first element. It will have some value 20. Its next will store address of third element. Third element previous will store address of second element. And it will have 30 and so on. If you want to write it down, if it is 10, it will store, let's say 2000. And once you go to 2000, here you'll store 1000, 20, and 3000. In the next value, you'll store 3000 and 30 and null. Now, this is pretty much similar to linked list. The only difference here is instead of just having, instead of just having struct node star next, you'll also have struct node star previous. So I have a question, how many pseudo questions and time duration? See, it's 30 minutes, 30 questions. Right, it is 30 minutes, 30 questions. So for those who are still a bit confused about the basics, just remember, you'll have 30 questions, 30 minutes to answer. And that is what you need to work on, basically. So if you're able to work through that, that's perfect. So those, again, for because I'm getting a few questions out here. See, there is no negative marking, because of course there won't be from their side unless they specify. Just know that. And you'll have these basically from C, data structures, C++, and C++ as in object oriented programming in C++ as well. So anyway, let's get back to data structures. Now, in this struct node, for a double linked list, instead of storing just next, we are also having a place to store previous address as well. So in this case, what happens here is, you are not only storing next, you are also storing previous. So doing code, when they ask you certain code of this, you may need to remember along with next you also have previous. Whenever they ask you pseudo codes like this, quickly take an example on a paper. Quickly, immediately take an example on a paper, like 10 and 2000. Some simple example, 2 variables is also enough, or 3 variables is also enough, 20 and 3000 and 30 and null. So immediately start going through these steps directly. Quickly take up something like previous, current, and ahead, and just store whatever value they've given. They've given us null first and star next, and you'll have a paper next to you because it's online. You can solve in a paper. You can try. That's not a problem. So there will also be a rough work and all those things. You can try, but you just should not minimize or do anything. This CoCubes, whatever you have, there will be, last time I checked, CoCubes has camera as well. Along with that, there will be options to know, they will get to know if you're minimizing, if you're closing it and everything. So don't do all of that. So don't minimize and put up a different thing. It will take up your full screen. It won't be half screen and everything. So just these are some basic things you should know. So you can just whip out such a question and just try tracing out and see where it is going wrong. Wherever it is going wrong, you can say that is the line where it is pretty much coming up as a mistake. So this is how you can try figuring it out. So now that we know this, I'm not going to go deep into double linked list, because once we know single linked list, you can easily find out how double linked lists are stored, how they work and everything. Now, when you get to know double linked list, you guys will get questions like, how much time does it take in double linked list, or what will be the case in double linked list for accessing an element, deleting an element and everything. See, when you delete, you will get questions like, for a double linked list, what is the time complexity to insert an element, delete an element, or search an element, or access an element? These are the kind of questions you guys may possibly expect. So when it comes to single linked list or double linked list, when it is search or access, both are same. Search or access elements, both are same. Worst case scenario for both single and double linked list is always O of n. Now, for linked list and double linked list, when it is insert or delete, we generally call it as big O of 1, not n, big O of 1. Given the condition, they say is, see, if you're inserting an element at the end of the linked list, you have so many linked list elements, you're you've got like 2 or 3 linked list elements. You're inserting one more at the end of the linked list. For you to access the end of the linked list, you're going to require big O of n. And for you to insert, you only require big O of 1. So when you insert the element, you're not counting to go till the last value also. You're just counting that you're already in the last value. You're supposed to insert one more element. You only take big O of 1. Or you're already in the first value. You're supposed to insert one more behind it. You're only going to take big O of 1. So this is where you guys can easily see and observe. For an array to insert, you're getting big O of n because everything you have to shift. For a linked list, you're getting big O of 1 for insert and delete. This is for single linked list and double linked list. Now, to go ahead and learn about trees, first we need to learn what exactly are trees. Now, trees are similar to linked list, but trees are very similar to double linked list, but in a double linked list, first element will have previous value as null. But in trees, first element will never have previous as null or next null. If it has more than one element, you can even have a previous value for the first element. Now, how is that? And one more thing, guys, when you get questions like based on this, let's say 3 elements, if it is a circular linked list, the third element, instead of storing null in its next part, it will store the address of first element in its next part. So when you do this also, there is not much change in insert, access, and delete. It's all big of 1, big of, and whatever it is, same only. It does not make much of a difference. So let us go for the concept of trees. Here's how a tree looks like. If you have a data like 10, it will store an address to the left of it and an address to the right of it. Now, an address to the left of it may be something like this. An address to the right of it may store something like this. Now, whichever is the first element, that is called root node. The first element is called root node. Now, whatever is to the left of it and right of this node are called children node. Children node of this root node. Now, let's go look at these children nodes. Let's say you have something like 5 here and you have something like 15 here. Now, after this, you can again have one more node value to the left of it, to the right of it. Now, guys, observe, I'm just writing arrow marks here. Instead of arrow marks, you can also say that this is stored in address 300 and I'm storing address 300 here. And this is stored in address 500 and I'm writing address 500 here. You can also state it like this. Now, once you're able to do this, let's say, if there is no node to the right side of it, this will become null. If there are any node to the right of it, it will store its address. If no address, let it be null. So to the left of it, you can have one more value, something like, let's say 2, and I'll not keep this as null. For now, let it be, that's all right. So you can have left again as null, right again as null. Instead of writing null completely, I'm just writing n. So here also you can have something to the left of it and again something to the right of it. To the left of it, you can have something like, let's say, let's assume 12. Again, I'll keep null here, null here. Let's say right side again, 17, null and null. Now this is a tree where you have a root node and it goes to a certain height. You guys need to remember a few basic concepts in this. The first node is called a root node and the nodes in the last level are called leaf nodes. This is the major basic thing you need to know. So the first element is the root node, the last elements are called leaf nodes. Now, in this root node and leaf node concept, you need to know one more basic thing, that is, as a root node and leaf node, unlike a real tree where root is at the bottom, leaf are at the top, this is entirely opposite of it. So going ahead from here, Apart from this, every node in between root and leaf nodes are called internal nodes. This is also one more thing you need to know. Every node in between root and leaf node are called internal nodes. You will expect gate type questions here. Probably in theory, you'll expect some gate type questions. Let us see what are these gate type questions and what can we expect and how can we solve it. Now, to begin with this, see, you can call this tree as a binary search tree or a BST in short, if the condition is like this. You have a node, everything to the left of it is lesser than the node, everything to the right of it is greater than the node. If you observe here, I have 10, to the left of it I have 5 and 2, to the right of it I have 12, 15 and 17. So everything to the right of 10 is greater than it and everything to the left of 10 is lesser than it. So you can say this is a binary search tree. Otherwise, let's say to the right of it, I have something like here, I'll write it in short, 11. If I write 11, see, to the left of 5, I have 2, which is lesser than 5. To the right of 5, I have 11, which is greater than 5. But to the left of 10, I have 11, which is not possible, which is not correct. So that is why this will not be a binary search tree. It cannot be. Now, let us get back to this. First thing we need to know, back here to the basics. Now, there are many different types of binary trees that you guys need to know. So, first, let us get to know what type of binary trees are there and what questions can be expected in this. If it is a binary tree, first question, if it is a binary tree, then every node has maximum 2 children. Now, do you guys want me to keep these points as notes as well? Just so you know, if you guys want me to keep these points as notes, I'll just type out only the important parts and share the same. All right, yes. Okay, so just remember basics. A tree is similar to a double linked list as a data structure. Now, here the first thing you guys need to, okay, I have to copy this in the context file. I was wondering why the color was different. All right, so back to this. Topmost value is called root and is first element. Bottommost values or bottommost level of values are leaf nodes, and internal values are called internal nodes. Now, within this, hold on guys. Right, so going ahead with this. Now, the next possible things you guys basically need to know is, it is called a binary tree if each node has 2 children. Now, how can it have more than 2 children? If you ask, you can have one more address called something like previous to. So that means there are 3 addresses to it. So this is not a binary tree. So binary tree is where it has only 2 children. So apart from binary tree, there is one particular concept called full binary tree. The first concept that is called full binary tree. Now, I'll delete all of this to explain basic concepts of full binary tree. Full binary tree. Before going for this, you guys need to know a few basic concepts. Let's say I have something like this. In this, wherever you have the first node, second level of nodes, third level of nodes, all of these are called different levels. This is your level 0, this is level 1, this is level 2, this is level 3. We call these as levels. So root is always in level 0, and height here is 1, height here is 2, height here is 3, height here is 4. This is one basic thing you need to know. So root, again, root exists in level 0 and its height is 1. So these are some basic things we need to know. Now let us go ahead from this. Let us start with the first concept that is called a full binary tree. A full binary tree is where every node has either 0 children or 2 children. This is the case. Here, if I had only one child in the last case, this is not a full binary tree, because full binary tree means each node must have either 2 children or 0. It cannot have one child. So in binary tree, full binary tree is where each node has 0 or 2 children and not one. Guys, please be on hold for just a minute. So going back to this, a full binary tree is where each node has 0 or 2 children exactly. Now, going away apart from full binary tree, you need to know a few interview questions that you may expect here. Now, one interview question you may expect is, what is the maximum number of nodes you can have? Or what is the minimum, let me write it as, what is the minimum number of nodes you can have in a full binary tree of height h? Second question, what is the maximum number of nodes you can have in a full binary tree of height h? So to solve these two questions, let's try solving these two questions. So I will answer one of these. I want you guys to try figuring out the other. So if you guys observe this, you need to know that if you need to have certain height level. So let's say you're going from here to 1, and again you need to have minimum either 0 children or 2 children. There must be 2 here. So again here if you calculate, there must be 2. Again here if you calculate, there must be 2. Again if you go below, there must be 2. So each level, if you try figuring it out, so this is 1, this is 2, this is 2, this is 2. So the idea is simple. Minimum number of nodes is in level 0, there must be 1. In level 1, there must be 2. In level 2, there must be 2. In level 3, there must be 2, so on. So in level 0, there should be 1, and level 1 to level whatever it is, there must be 2 nodes. So remember, this is height 1, height 2, height 3, and height 4. So for a height being 4, for a height as 4, you're having 7. If the height was 3, I'll just write this to you guys so that you guys can try figuring out the formula when questions like this. Height is 4. Sorry, let's say if height is 1, you'll have 1. If height is 2, you'll have 3. If height is 3, you'll have 5. If height is 4, you'll have 7. So is there any possible formula that you can think of? Any possible formula that you can think of that provides the number of nodes that can come up here? 2h minus 1, will this work? Height is 1, 2 into height is 2, 2 height minus 1 is 1. Then height is 2 here. 2 height is 4. 4 minus 1 is 3. Height is 3 here. 2 height is 6. 6 minus 1, I'm getting 5. Again, height here is 4. So 2 height is 8. 8 minus 1, I'm getting 7. So can I say minimum number of nodes that I can have in my full binary tree is 2 into height minus 1. Can I say this? Yes. And if you want to calculate the maximum number of nodes you can have in a full binary tree, I will explain this answer when we go to perfect binary tree, because answer is same for here and perfect binary tree. Same as perfect binary tree. I'll explain this when we go to perfect binary tree. Now, from here, let's go to the next thing. Now, what is the, like, okay, let's say if given number of leaf nodes, can you calculate number of internal nodes? In a full binary tree? This is the next question. If given number of leaf nodes, can you calculate number of internal nodes? Now this may seem like a tough question, but if you observe, number of leaf nodes is always equal to number of internal nodes plus a value. Now if you observe, see, number of internal nodes is equal to leaf nodes plus 1. Leaf nodes are 2. Sorry, hold on. Leaf nodes are totally 3. Does this count as leaf node? No. So leaf nodes essentially are 2. And internal nodes for this particular place is 3 for this entire row. But this does not work perfectly. I'll explain why exactly it does not. Let me just write a tree here, something like this, to understand how exactly this is calculated. So these are again some gate type questions that you guys may expect here. So if you know the formulae, then these will be easy for you. So in a full binary tree, this is the formula. Number of, sorry, I wrote it in the opposite way, guys. Sorry. Number of leaf nodes will be equal to number of internal nodes plus 1. So that is something you guys can try through, think through how it works, and so on. Again, those are not completely so much required. I'll give this as a trial for you. Now, this is only for full binary tree. Now we have more types of binary tree. This is just a full binary tree. You have something else called a perfect binary tree. So a perfect binary tree, guys, remember, a full binary tree is where each node has 0 or 2 children, exactly 0 or 2. A perfect binary tree is where all nodes have exactly 2 children. This is the condition. All nodes will exactly have 2 children. So let's see how this works with a possible example. Now, if you observe this, I'll take a root node and it will have 2 children. Now, this should also have exactly 2 children. Now, every node has exactly 2 children, but this does not have 2 children. The condition is every node has to have exactly 2 children until you reach the leaf level. So even here, if this has 2 children, that means all these 3 should also have 2 children each, because every node should have exactly 2 children until you reach leaf node level. where it should stop perfectly. Now, the question that will come up here is, how many nodes are there in level I? This is level 3, this is level 2, this is level 1, this is level 0. In level 0, you have 1, I'll write here. In level 1, you have 2, level 2, you have 4, level 3, you have 8. It is exponential. So I can say 2 power 1, 2 square, 2 power 0, 2 power 1, 2 square, and 2 cube. In short, we can just say level I will have 2 to the power of I nodes in a perfect binary tree. So for each level I, you have exactly 2 to the power of I nodes. This is the condition. Now, going ahead from this, I'm going to give you guys one small question followed by this. If each level has exactly 2 power I nodes, how many nodes will be there in a perfect binary tree if the height is n? If the height is n, how many nodes will be there in a perfect binary tree? So it is the same answer as what is maximum nodes you can have in a full binary tree. See, maximum nodes in a full binary tree is where everything has 2 nodes, 2 subchild. And that is exact definition of perfect binary tree. So if you only know perfect binary tree, and if you don't know this, remember, both are exactly the same. Now, if you calculate this, up to level 3, you have 1, 2, 4, 8. If you calculate the sum of this, 8 plus 4, 12, 12 plus 2, 16, 16 plus 1, you get 17. Sorry, yeah, 14 plus 1, 15. You get 15, not 17. 15. So 15 is what you have here. It's an odd number. I don't know how it works. I don't know what it means. So I'm going to give this as an assignment to you guys. One of you have already given me this correctly. I need you guys to try with trial and error and see what will be the number of nodes available in this. Don't go online, don't search online, because such basic things, if they are giving some twisted questions, you should be able to solve it as well. So try this by yourself, guys. This is the question for you guys. I need you guys to try this out by yourself. Then there are so many other things like balanced binary tree, other binary trees and everything. Then we will go for binary search tree, and we will learn coding of it up next. Once we do the coding of binary search tree, we will see what sort of interview questions are asked in it. Because as far as I have seen, I'll tell you guys this very clearly. As far as I've seen, binary search tree coding interview questions are pretty much asked every time or every alternate time. At least I have seen this for sure. So this is something that's pretty important. And another pretty much guaranteed one is time complexity problems. We'll see how to solve time complexity problems using sorting algorithms as examples. Using sorting algorithms as examples, we'll see how to solve these. So these are what we're going to complete in our session tomorrow, guys. So I'll stop here for today. I'm going to share this content with you guys first. We have done a lot of coding to begin with. Now, one thing I want you guys to try out today is just look at a tree code. Look at the code to create a binary tree. Create a binary tree, insert element within a binary tree. If you can tonight, before tomorrow morning session, if possible, observe this. Just give it a glance and try to understand this. This is your small assignment for you guys today, because if you do that, tomorrow's morning session will become very easy for you. So I'm just gonna share the entire code for today and call it as Capgemini, the date being 24, sorry, 25. Okay. So you're getting the whole code. You guys can copy it, download it, do whatever you guys want with it till now. So I'm sharing the same thing for you guys, and we'll stop here. Now, before we end the session, I want to ask you guys something very important. Um, are you guys able to follow this clearly? Is data structure still now easy? That's all my question is. Is it easy? Only today's notes I'll share separately then. In chat box, these are too huge. I don't think sharing in chat box is going to be easy. This is too huge because we have written big programs. You're going to keep missing out on them. So my suggestion is I can copy uh, everything we have done today, include from this reverse list in a different file here. You can download it as text here. I'll tell you how to download it as text easily. So if you open this link, you have this link called download as text. The moment you click this, it just downloads as a text file. That's pretty much it. So of course you need to log in to download as a text file. If you have an Ubuntu One account, then that's perfect. You can download it, or you can again copy and paste it. This is only for today. So I hope data structure still now has become easy. Tomorrow it's going to become very complicated. It's going to be very complicated by tomorrow. So keep a pen and paper tomorrow morning. Be fresh. Have a cup of coffee. We're going to start with some heavy hitting topics tomorrow. All right, guys, we're going to stop here today. We'll begin tomorrow with sorting and more advanced data structures. I hope you guys had a good time learning these sessions today. We'll begin up tomorrow, guys. All right. Thank you, guys.